Hello everybody and welcome back to another Oscar prediction video where today I will be taking a look at the category of Best Documentary Short Film. Now this is coming a little bit later in the day than I normally would, and I'm sorry about that, but I was trying to see if I could get caught up on as many of the documentaries as I could, and a lot of them are still not available to watch online, so I'm just going to have to give the best estimates as to how some of these are, but I've heard a lot of feedback from people who have seen all of these, and you can never really tell with the short film categories, but this does seem to be between two choices, and fortunately I have seen both of those. Also, one thing that I will say, I just talked about documentary feature yesterday, and all of the nominees in that category seem to be very heavy and very serious, sad subject matter. In contrast, the 5 films nominated in this category seem to be a little bit more on the uplifting side. There's definitely some heavy stuff in there, but it's not as prominent as it is with the documentary features. So in many ways, this category is a nice little chaser from the heaviness of documentary feature. With that out of the way, 5th most likely to win is Island in Between. So this one tells the story of the islands of Kinmen, which are in between Taiwan, China, and the US, and the director is basically reflecting on his relationship with these countries and with the relationships that the countries have with each other. Honestly, it does not sound the most engaging, and from what I've heard, no one who's seen all the nominees is like, oh yeah, this is the best one. Even when I was predicting the nominations from the shortlist, I think this was like 14 or 15, it seemed like the least interesting out of all of them, and so somehow it got on, good for it, but no one seems to be that excited by this nomination. So there's basically nothing that convinces me that this would be a worthy winner, although sometimes shocking things can happen in the documentary short categories. I believe the year that Colette won, that was the least likely to win, but at least that was about the Holocaust. This one, there doesn't seem to be anything special about it. 4th most likely to win is The Barber of Little Rock. So this one tells the story of Arlo Washington, an African-American barber in Little Rock, Arkansas, who founded a nonprofit community bank to try to lessen the racial wealth gap. So obviously an important issue, and a lot of people are really liking this one. Personally, I found it a bit boring and it didn't really keep my attention, but I understand why it has the fans that it does. It's obviously a subject matter is important, and people are finding it very inspirational. People are moved by it, but not so moved by it that I think it can win. I think it's, I don't know, either they like things that are super, super important and super, super timely, or they like things that are super intimate. And I think this sort of falls in between there. I don't necessarily think this is going to have what it takes to win, but I could be wrong. Again, that's the thing with these short categories, a lot of it is just guesswork. 3rd most likely to win is The ABCs of Book Banning. So this one features people discussing the mass banning of books related to LGBT topics and issues of race, specifically in Florida. Now obviously this one is maybe the most timely out of all of them. It's dealing with a very important subject matter, and sometimes that's all it takes to win. Also, it maybe has the catchiest title out of all of them, which is a good factor when it comes to getting nominated for an Oscar. But I've heard that this is not one of the most impressive ones. Like, from a filmmaking perspective, they basically just read selections from the books that were banned, and there's not a whole lot of insight other than, hey, this is an important topic. But obviously it is an important topic, and sometimes that can be enough. But I think this is an issue that people are already pretty aware of. It's not really shining a light on anything, and it's not really doing anything special with the filmmaking. So while I think some people are going to vote for it just because of its importance, I don't really think it has what it takes to win. Second most likely to win is The Last Repair Shop. So this one deals with an LA downtown warehouse with a handful of devoted craftspeople who keep the student instruments in good repair. So basically, like, there's these people who work at this place who are repairing these instruments, and there's also kids who come learn and kids who play in this orchestra. And this one I thought was really interesting and really compelling. Um, it's not There's some stuff with the kids, with the students, and how they're talking about how music is important to them, but most of it is the people who work there. And they all have these really fascinating stories about how music saved their life. And at the end, over the end credits, there is this big grand orchestra performance that it's really moving, and it's designed to be moving, but it works, and it's effective, and it's impactful. And this is the one that, from what I've heard from other people who have watched all the nominees, this seems to be the one that the most amount of people are gravitating towards. But I'm not quite going to go for it. And I think I totally understand anyone who does want to go for it. But looking at all of the nominees, I think this is where the passion lies. And sometimes that can help. But sometimes in the short categories, it's not really about passion, it's about other factors. So the short that I am predicting to win this category is Nai Nai and WIPO. So in this film, the filmmaker is showcasing his two grandmothers and showcases them going about their daily lives. Now, I heard the word grandmothers and I got really excited. I just want to clarify for anyone who hasn't seen this yet. Harold, they're not lesbians. We have a maternal grandmother and a paternal grandmother who are choosing to live together after their respective husbands have passed. So, it's not that. But it is basically watching... Okay, I'm going to be totally honest. This short does not have much of a plot. Most of it is just watching these two grandmothers being kooky and being eccentric and just watching them go about their daily lives. For most of the runtime, and then at the end they talk a little bit about their own mortality and death, about how they know it's coming and death is not something to be feared. And when I was watching it, I was like, okay, this is the sort of thing that's deliberately made to make anyone who has lost a grandparent cry. And you know what? It's not a bad strategy if you want to win an Oscar. Just go for the most emotional I don't know. I think the way it depicts the grandmothers, it really does want you to project a little bit of your own grandparents onto it. And most of it is just very lighthearted, with these two women being very fun. And I do think that it's when people are voting on this category, there is this idea of, if we vote for this movie, then the two grandmothers themselves will get on stage and deliver a speech. And it'll be really cool to see that. I think so many voters are going to be able to make an emotional connection to Nai Nai and WIPO, and because of that, my gut tells me that this is the short that will win. Even though it's not the short I would personally vote for, I think this is the one that's just going to get a lot of attention. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and tune in next time when I will be taking a look at the category of Best Actress. See you then.